Hi and welcome to Art Club for April. I'm Anna Brewster and I'm going to be showing you how to paint some flower and leaf designs because it's April and almost everybody I know has a birthday in April, so I thought wrapping paper, card designs, this is kind of how we're going to roll this month. So here is what we're going to be doing. As you can see, it's quite a funky design. It's really simple to do and it's quite fun, and this is something that you can adapt to all sorts of other ideas, so autumn leaves or really anything you like. You could do animals, it really doesn't matter. This is the idea of the thing that we're looking at here. You are going to need some super nasty rough paper. This is a roll of paper which is £3 in IKEA. Lining, wallpaper, lining paper, printer paper, whatever you've got to hand is absolutely fine. You're going to need a pencil, you're going to need a big ruler if you're the sort of person who likes things to be precise. You're going to need some paint, yellow and blue, watercolour for preference, but really anything goes at this point. And you're going to need some pens and pencils and basically anything you've got, any art kit you've got lying about. That will enable you to make the colours you want. So I've got some crayons, I've got some coloured pencils, I've got some acrylic paint, and I've got a pen. The pen needs to be waterproof, so it could be a biro, it could be a permanent marker, it could be, this is like a fine liner pen with a chisel tip on it, so that's, yeah, basically anything that when you wash something over the top, nothing comes off. If you've got all that stuff, and a rubber to rub out your lines with, you are ready to rock, so let's go. Okay, so first things first, when we're making a piece of repeated pattern type art, we want to make sure we space the squares out quite evenly. I normally do this by eye, but if you have a ruler and you have a pencil and you're a bit worried about where your squares are going to end up, and some might be bigger than others, this is a really easy way of just making sure that doesn't happen. So I'm going to just put some lines on here. I'm going to put them on actually slightly harder than I would normally because I want you to be able to see where they are, but I wouldn't normally do it this hard. So let's just put some of these on. I'm going to allow myself 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 8 centimetres a box. It doesn't really matter too much. See, now I've got to actually count the 8 centimetres. This is hideous. There we go. And there. Right, okay, let's go across from here. So 8. You can see me, you can actually hear me counting in my head, can't you? There we go, that'll do. So yeah, I'm just going to draw these on roughly, and these are, if you are doing this with a ruler, please don't press nearly as hard as I'm doing. I am only pressing this hard so you can see where they are, because I'm aware that if you're not used to laying things out, this could be a little bit more difficult. So hopefully these will be visible. Probably won't fill all of these in this demo, but if I was making wrapping paper, which I frequently do, this is how I'd be kind of starting things off. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I've now got a number of boxes which are all the same size, so I know if I fill these boxes, I'll have a very nice even pattern to work with. Right, so now we're ready to add some colour. Now what you want to do here is think about which colours you want on your picture. I'd recommend sticking with maybe 3. You don't have to, you could go completely wild and just do a load of different colours. It depends what you're going to put in the boxes. So I'm thinking ahead, and I'm thinking that I am going to have some leaves and probably some daffodils. Lots of daffodils around at the moment. I think they're just coming to the end really, but so you could go for tulips or something like that. And what we're going to do is we're just going to paint some colour in each of the boxes. We're going to be pretty quick and dirty with this. What I suggest doing is mixing up a nice big puddle. If you can see that just on the edge of the screen here, I'm mixing up a big puddle of yellow here, and that's going to be one of my colours. And you don't have to be, again, you could make this a regular pattern or an irregular pattern. It really is your call. So I'm going to go for irregular, but I know I've thought this through ahead, and if I've got, say I'm going to do these 12, which seems like a reasonable, yeah, I'm going to do these 12. So what I'll do is I'll do 6 of them yellow and 6 of them green. So I'll have 6 leaves and 6 daffodils. So have I got a big enough puddle here? Probably yes. My brush is a little bit small for this. Really I should be going for a bigger one, but we're just going to, you can see how nasty this paper is now. It's really nasty. But if you've got nice paper, it's a very different beast. But I deliberately didn't want to use nice paper because, let's face it, who makes wrapping paper out of nice paper? If you're doing this on lovely, lovely watercolour paper, you'll be able to do all manner of other things with it. So I'm going to put that one, like push the paint around a little bit and let it seep in, and it will come out a lot more even. This looks quite kind of rough. You can see where the lines are, but that's fine. So I've got 4. I'm going to put the other 2. This one. It's actually very hard to do a random pattern because our brains really don't want to do it. So you may find that even though you set out to do something random, you've actually painted it. Ooh, where am I going to put that one? Let's put that one there. You painted it all very regular and made a pattern. There we go. So those are my yellows. I'm going to use 2 different greens. What I will do is I will use the remainder of the yellow I have and mix it with a little bit of ultramarine. You do not have to use watercolour for this. You could use absolutely anything you've got lying about. You could use coloured pencils. You could use, the only thing I would avoid using is crayons, because I think it would be difficult to go over the top with, because crayons are very water repellent. So apart from crayons, it's really up to you. So we've got a nice light green here. This is going to be, these are going to be some of the leaves. So you've got to imagine it a little bit further down the line with the boxes rubbed out, which you of course will not have drawn in nearly as heavy as I have. Let's go for that one. Oh dear, I've made the cardinal error of not mixing quite enough paint. Don't do that to yourself. Make sure you've got enough paint to finish your boxes. If you're worried about that, have a bit of a practice on something else first. But the lovely thing about this terrible paper is that it's like £3 a roll in IKEA, and so you really don't need to worry too much about making a pig's ear of it, because you can always just roll off another bit and off you go again. You can see I'm mixing, I'm only using 2 colours here actually. I've used the ultramarine and I've got a cadmium yellow that I'm using to make quite a sort of muted green. I'm feeling quite classy today, so we're going to go for quite a classy sort of restrained green. Please don't feel you have to do that. You could go for any colours you like. The nice thing about this as well is when you get to what you're going to put on it, the world really is your oyster. You can put anything you like on this. You could draw party balloons, you could draw, I don't know, stars, whatever you want really. That's the fun of it. My wedding invitation cards looked very much like this, with daffodils and leaves and things. That was a long time ago now. Right, okay, so now you can see I've got this quite irregular pattern. I've got quite a lot of the nice pale yellow. I've got 3 dark greens, I've got 3 light greens, and that'll be enough. If I was going to carry on, I could just carry on unrolling the paper. I could carry on working down here. Now we have to let that dry. It doesn't really matter what what sort of paint you've used, but you need to let it dry. You could use acrylics. I think that would be absolutely fine. If you've used coloured pencils, then you are basically ready to rock straight away. But I'm going to have to take this and put it on a radiator for a little bit, as we have very little sunlight here in Devon at the moment. So I will be back in a minute. Go and make yourself a cup of tea. Okie dokie, so we're on to step 2 now. Our paint is now totally dry. because with paper that is this rubbish, if you go in over wet paper it will almost certainly dig a hole in it, so I would thoroughly recommend letting it dry completely. I've gone off and had a coffee, so I'm now ready to rock. So the way that you get your images onto here is really simple. We're going for quite a designy sort of feel rather than a completely photorealistic perfect feel, although again it is totally up to you. Tracing round things is completely legitimate, so if you feel like putting something on here and tracing round it, that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to do that because the leaf I've got is just a little bit too big for what I want, but yes, you absolutely could. I'm going to show you how I do daffodils, just a really straightforward design of a daffodil, because I think for this I am going to use daffodils and I'm going to use 2 springy type leaves to go next to it. So daffodils are fairly kind of iconic flowers, aren't they? And normally I would say don't ever try and draw them face on with the trumpet facing directly towards you, but for this they're quite fun. So what I do is I do a little wiggly circle round in a thing, and then another little wiggly circle, and that's the end of the daffodil trumpet, and then you can put in some little bits in the middle. They don't have to be particularly neat and tidy. Now this is the critical bit. You want to put petals around them. Daffodils always have 6 petals. So what I do is I go out in opposite, do one here, do one there, do one here. You can see I'm going out over the edge of where the paint actually is, and that's fine. Do one there, daffodil. Okay, I'm going to do another one up here. Can we see this one all right? Yeah, we can. Good. Okay, twiddly, twiddly, twiddly around the middle. Some stamens there, and then out, 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 out. The reason I don't go round, I often say this to people in my class, if you go round, the chances are that you will mess it up, because it's very hard to gauge 1/6 of a thing from when you're going round in a circle. So we've got another daffodil here. Doesn't matter if they come out all completely different. I could do, if I wanted to, I could do some with really thin petals, more like a narcissi type thing. But I'm just going to go for the simple ones here. So we've got daffodil. Now I'm regretting drawing quite this many daffodils, but never mind. Put the stamens in. So we're moving across, so you're painting, putting in the opposites all the time. There we go. This one I've made rather difficult for myself, but let's just push that out of the way. Oh, this is very nice and relaxing. There we go. And there is, as I said, there's nothing wrong with tracing round things. So if you've got a flower that you really wanted to draw and you think, okay, well I could trace around that, I'd go for it. Right, the leaves, again, this is a design rather than a beautiful, perfect drawing. So I'm going to keep these fairly simple. I'm going to do these ones as, yeah, I'll do these as sort of baby beech leaves. So what I'll do is I'll draw the, you can see I've drawn that in there, and then beech leaves are quite sort of wobbly, like that, and you can put in a few if you want. They look kind of like this, so it's fine. I'm going to do another one here just to show you. So again, I'm working out the height of the leaf, and then they go like this. If you're a bit worried about coming down the other side, you can always, I'll show you on this one actually, hold on. You can always go up to the top, there's your leaf, little stem. You can go up on one side, and actually this is the best way to draw most things that are symmetrical, and go up on the other like that, and that way you'll get quite a nice even shape. So there we go, we've got those ones, and then for these ones I'm going to do something a little bit more like maybe like an elm leaf. They're a bit more serrated, so we'll have another one there. You can see I'm making them all go in the same direction. That is personal choice rather than anything else, but I think it adds quite a nice little element of design to this. I've only got 3 of these, 3 of each of the leaves, because they're not quite as interesting as the daffodils, are they? Let's face it. But hey, you could do one. I did an autumn one that was entirely leaves, and that was really quite fun. So we're gonna let's just put in a few little bits here and a few little bits there. Okay, so we've got our design here, and I think you can probably see that I've got quite a nice pattern going on. Now what I tend to do at this point is put in some black lines. Now I'm using a pigment liner, so it's a permanent, like a marker pen, a very small marker pen. I use these for teaching a lot. That's in focus, good. It's got a chisel tip on it, which means it's sort of angled at the end. You don't have to use this, you could use a biro, you could use almost anything you've got. And what I'm going to do with that is just go over my pencil lines. Again, if you do your pencil lines quite lightly, you will be able to rub them out. It's really up to you if you want to or not. Again, as you will know if you've seen me drawing before, I often leave the pencil lines in because I quite like how they look, but that's just personal preference again. So, I would normally take a lot more time over this, but I'm going to do this quite rapidly today. Here we go. What I'll do is I'll do some of them so I can show you the next layer, and I'll leave some of them blank so you can kind of see where I've come from. So I like this little chisel tip marker because it gives me a range of strokes that I can make with it. I can make quite a thick stroke or quite a thin stroke, but I do use them for drawing things all the time, just because I'm not a fan of the massively skinny fine liner pens. I find them too delicate for the sort of way I draw. Okay, there we go, so we'll have that one. Very springy colours, I think. Right, let's do that daffodil as well, and I've got 6 in a ring that are not a ring, 6 in a set, that's what I want to say. You can see once you've got the pencil lines in, it's quite easy to go over the top, and if you find that actually you have put the pencil line in the wrong place, that's your chance to kind of correct it. So I'll just pause here, I'll fill in the others, and then we will do the next bit. Okay, so we've got designs completely prepared, and you can see how this is really starting to come together now. Now comes the point where you can start freestyling a bit, which is always, as you might know, my favourite part of any drawing adventure. I've got all sorts of bits and bobs here. I've got coloured pencils, I've got a big yellow crayon, I've got some acrylic paint. Whatever you've got to hand is absolutely fine, because over the top of a paint layer like this, you can put almost anything. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have a little bit of a play. You can even try, what I'll do is I'll show you different things on all the different squares so you can get an idea of what is possible. But really this is where your imagination takes over. So I've got, this is quite a big dirty brush actually, or maybe a slightly smaller brush might be. There's words you won't hear me say very often. A slightly smaller brush, good lord. Right, slightly smaller brush. So what I'm going to do, that bright yellow that I had, I've got some of that on the brush now. You can, because watercolour loves to layer, you can paint over the top of your first layer if that's what you fancy doing. At this point you start painting a little bit more neatly. Again, how often do I say that? Good Lord, what is coming over me? Must be eating too much chocolate maybe at Easter. So you can see the yellow is building up really nicely here. And all this is the same colour on top. So this is like a cadmium medium yellow that I like to use. A lemon yellow would be nice as well. I'll just put some of that in there. These if you've used a waterproof pen or a biro, it shouldn't go anywhere once you've done this. So that's a watercolour one. Let's do a watercolour leaf, shall we? So the pale green one. What I might do is do half of it one green and half of it another green. That can look quite fun. So we'll make that half a slightly deeper green, and then we'll mix a bit more yellow into the other half just for variety. There we go. That's quite nice, isn't it? Okay, good. So what I'll do, just paint this row in watercolour, and then I'll show you some of the other things that we can do as well. Of course, you don't have to be neat and tidy about this. You could be quite messy. It would be fine, because you've got that nice layer at the back that is acting as a kind of a background or an undercoat. It's all going to pull it together really well. So the middles of those, I might even add another layer. Okay, so I've got let's just do one more for the sake of it. I'm actually running out of yellow paint here because my yellow paint always gets completely disgustingly filthy. So most of my yellow is quite green. That's one thing to watch out for. If you are painting something like daffodils or something that's really yellow, just make sure your yellow is actually yellow before you get going. I often just get some new out of the tube. Okay, so we've got some daffs there. Right, so crayons. This is a horrible crayon that I've nicked from the kids. But actually crayon goes really nicely over watercolour because you can kind of slightly see through it. You can see, you get, oh, that was my head. You get a very different kind of feel to it, but that's quite nice. I would demonstrate with a green for the leaf, but I don't have a green crayon for some reason. I forgot to bring it with me to the studio. Never mind. There we go. So we've got a yellow there. That's quite fun. I did bring some pencils though. So here we go. This is a pencil now. This is quite interesting actually, because this is picking up the texture of the wooden bench underneath my piece of paper, because this paper is so thin and so hideous. Let's do that one over there like that as well. This is quite a nice green pencil, I will not lie. This is quite a posh one. It's a Polychromos Faber-Castell. It's got a slight oily texture to it, but to be quite honest, any green pencil that you've got lying about would probably do a fairly good job. Let's do a few more. I was going to do one of these, wasn't I, as well? So acrylic paint. It will cover up your lines slightly. I'm just going to use it neat from the tube. Actually, am I? Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. But you do get some quite nice sort of brush stroke things happening, so this is another option. If you are doing this and you want to rub out your pencil lines, make sure you do that before you hit it with the acrylic paint, because acrylic paint is essentially plastic and it does not, once it's down, you're not going to be able to rub that pencil line out. Watercolour is weird, you can rub out through it, It rubs off a little bit of the watercolour, but not too much. This stuff, no chance. But look at that lovely yellow. Let's put some of that on there as well. If you've got oil pastels lying about, that could be fun. In fact, I might have some in my bag. I'll have a look in a second. It really is up to you, and that's part of the fun here. You could even stick bits on if you had some collage papers or anything like that. Tissue papers, things like that, that you could stick on over the top. Okie dokie. Right, let's just... So some of those watercolour ones, I might put another little layer on. I'm going to put, have I got a lighter green? Not got a whole load of greens, to be honest, but I've got a yellow, which is going to, do I like that? No, I don't like that actually. No, forget that. Let's use this yellow instead. So I'm just using some of the yellow off my palette. Bit of mix and match here, why not? As I say, this is something to play with, so I'm actually putting a bit of yellow over there. I think the thing is to, if you do, you're aiming for sort of consistency. So if you put a leaf on like one, using one medium in one place, do another one like it somewhere else, and then it'll, whatever you've done, it will look like you did it on purpose. This is top tips from the studio here. There we go, let's put that one in. But it's really nice to experiment with this, and as I say, this paper is so flipping cheap that you could use lining paper. If you've got any wallpaper, lining paper kicking about, or just printer paper will do just fine. Let's paint that one. That's my lighter leaf. And the nice thing about this is, as you put the layers over, you can put as many layers on as you want, but the more layers you put on, the deeper, the brighter the colour will get. The more saturated, really, that's the word I want. There we go. Okay, so the only thing I might do after this is, because I've obviously done these acrylics, I won't be able to add anything else on unless I put another acrylic layer over the top, because as I say, it's plastic, things won't go over the top. But these watercolours, what I could do if I wanted was mix a little bit more orangey colour and do the middle like that. Won't be able to do that with the wax either, I'd have to go and find the right wax crown. So there we go. This is a little piece of wrapping paper, and you can just keep going. Make it as big as you like. Well, that's about it for this month. I hope you've enjoyed making the designs. As you can see, mine's mostly finished now. I might carry on adding a few more little layers here and there, but really this is something you can do with whatever you've got to hand, any old paper. I'd really like to see what you get up to, so if you do make any of your own, send me a message. You can find me on Instagram, I'm at Sidmouth Skies, or you can find me on Facebook, I'm Anna Brewster Art on there. Happy painting.